Lesson 97, similar triangles, an indirect measure. Okay, so I'm going to draw two triangles that are similar to begin with. So we have triangle ABC and triangle XYZ. These are supposed to be similar. When you have two similar triangles, the corresponding angles are congruent. So angle A would be congruent to angle X, angle B would be congruent to angle Y, and angle C would be congruent to angle Z. Now these arc marks, these are called arc marks. I put one between A and X to show they're congruent. If you put one with B and Y, then it looks like they're also congruent to A and X. So we do two arc marks, and then we'll do three on the third angles. Now the side lengths, wait a minute. This triangle is impossible to make. I have to change these side lengths. We can't do this. We're going to change this. 2, 3, and we'll call this one 6. Okay, you can make a triangle out of that. Okay, so the side lengths will be proportional. If you notice, we just took each side length and timesed it by 3. So the scale factor is 3. The factor is the number that you're multiplying by. So a scale factor is what you multiply it by to get to the next one. So similar triangles have equal corresponding angles. So angle X, the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle X. The measure of angle B equals the measure of angle Y. And the measure of angle C would equal the measure of angle Z. And then the lengths of corresponding sides of similar triangles are proportional. So proportional means that if you make them into fractions, they would be equal. So if you take the corresponding sides and make them into fractions, they're going to be equal. So in other words, corresponding sides, if I did 3 to 9, so 3 divided by 9, which is 1/3, is going to equal 2 divided by 6, which is 1/3, which is going to equal 6 divided by 18, which is 1/3. So those would be the proportions. So side AC, so capital A, capital C with a line over it, corresponds to side XY. Now the order of the letters matter. A, C, that should be XZ. I don't know why I said XY. So if you go from angle A to angle C, we're going 1 with 1 arc mark to 3. That's going to correspond to to side X to Z, or we went from one arc mark to 3. So if you were to write 6 to 18, you'd get 1/3. And then we have AB corresponds to XY. Oh, that's why I said XY right below it. And that would be 3 to 9, which also equals 1/3. And then we have BC, side BC corresponds to side YZ. So 2 to 6 equals 1/3. So each of these fractions, 6/18, 3/9, and 2/6, they're all equal. And that's a proportion when you have two fractions equal to each other. So one thing that we like to do with similar triangles is to do what's called indirect measure. So you can measure something that's super tall, like the Macy's flag or a big tree, by using indirect measure. So if you think of the sun shining down on, let's say we're measuring like a giant tall building, okay? So the shadow of the building would go out so far because of the sun. Well, the angle, we can say that this angle right here is going to equal the same angle as if the sun were shining down on a person and they have a shadow. So because the sun is so far away, these two angles are going to be congruent. So if the shadow of the building is 100 and the shadow of the person is 50, and we know that the person is, say, 60, we'll just say 60 inches. Wait, we can't do that. We have to do feet. Let's change it. This person's 10 feet tall. We're going to do 10. Never mind. Okay. So if the person's 10 feet tall, how tall is the building? We could set up a proportion, and we could say the height of the building over the shadow of the building equals the height of the person, which was 10, over the shadow of the person. So the height of the building would be 20. The reason why we can do this proportion, the triangles are similar. They have these angles congruent, and we can say that these angles are 90 degrees. So that means the third angle is congruent. And if all three angles are congruent, the triangles are similar. Yes. Haley.
The person is 10 feet tall.
Yeah, he's super tall. Okay, that's the end of the lesson.